In this parable, we're going to New Zealand in 1920. During this time, there was a recession ahead, though to the First World War that just happened. And in the kingdom, there was this salesman that talked about golden cows. Really, cows whose skin was of gold. They were blonde cows, but in sunlight they glittered like gold. And he was telling the people that these cows, their milk is of heavenly quality, pure white and healthy. And he had I won't say picture, but he had a painting of some of those quote-unquote golden cows. And he spread some cake around, some cheesecake around. When people ate it, people were thinking, whoa, this is delicious. And he told them, that's due to the milk of this golden cow. There are many of those golden cows in South America. I have a fleet around Colombia, so I can get you those golden cows, but I'll need to purchase them, and the Spanish authorities of the Spanish republics aren't that easy. I'll need to bribe them. But if you can support me with some donations, you'll get your golden cows within 2 years. So many farmers in New Zealand became excited and they donated a lot of money. Hundreds of thousands of sterlings went to this salesman. So when the time frame came to an end, the people were asking, where are the golden cows? Then the salesman said, just have a bit trust. They're coming. There's some delay. We need some more donations. So, another time, hundreds of thousands of pounds entered into the pocket of the salesman. When the deadline passed, some people became suspicious. Some people began to ask, wait a minute. It takes 2 years to ship some cows from South America, while you can receive cargo from Britain within 70 days? What? Then people began to think that this story doesn't add up. But then the salesman, when he noticed that there was suspicion against him, he moved to Sydney, Australia, another British kingdom. So the spokesperson of this salesman remained in Auckland. So people came to this spokesperson asking, where are the golden cows? He said, I know we told you would have them about a half year ago, but they're coming. Just keep on spending. And again, hundreds of thousands of pounds went to the salesman. And you guessed it, those golden cows never came. It was a hoax. It was a hoax that if you just would have sat down quietly and think about it, you would think, huh? Golden cows with milk that contains heavenly quality? Okay, those cows need to be pregnant to produce the milk. Where does the semen come from? Are there also golden oxen then? So you begin to think, this story is quite weird. This story is worse than Cinderella, worse than Snow White. It's worse than any of those childhood fairy tales that people are spreading around. And you begin to think, even unicorns are more practical and realistic than this story. So you as a New Zealander, well actually you're British, because New Zealand was a British kingdom, actually still is, but at the time they didn't really call them New Zealanders, they still call them British. You as a Briton over there, you think, huh? You ask one of those farmers, did you donate money to that salesman, Mr. Richardson? The farmer said, yes, I donated 75% of my income. And she almost collapsed. She almost fainted over there. You asked them, what? 75% of your income? The farmer said, yeah, I had some difficulty past 2 years with farming because most of the money went to Mr. Richardson. But I knew once the golden cows would arrive, oh dear, things would become great. It would be like the Garden of Eden over here. You walked away because you thought, I'm not going to talk with this individual. This individual is too far gone. He has too many mental and emotional complications for me to relate to this individual in a healthy manner. You sensed that if you would show facts, the individual would be resistant in facing the facts and that he may turn on you and you would be in danger. So you thought, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to throw my pearls before swine and endanger myself. You did the right thing. Now this was a parable, obviously. It didn't actually happen in history. Why did I make this parable onto you? Just think about the parable for a moment. Some guy offers something that's way out of line, and people fall for it. But look at the context when it happened. After the First World War, there was an upcoming crisis. People sensed already that the crisis was coming. So in this context, the scammer had an open wound that he could take advantage of. In this context of a looming economic recession, he knew that the population wants security. They want to hold on to something. So, to the farmers, because the majority of the population were farmers, or they were dependent on the farms, the urban areas, they were populated, but still, the economy was mostly based on the agriculture, despite that it was a quote-unquote modern British kingdom. The guy knew that the farmers want security and the society wants security also, so he offered them a security. But in exchange, people had to invest in it. And worldly people want to have control, so when you tell them that they need to invest in something to get the benefit, they will likely do it. If you offer it onto them for free, they tend to question it. Because they can't trust things for free. They want to be able to pay for something to feel good about it, because when they pay for it, they feel as if they have control over it. That's why there are places where scammers, I would say, they charge people for things they shouldn't be charged for. It can be that in a place there is an overwhelming abundance of fresh water because the town is located near the mountains. So there's fresh water, millions of cubic of fresh water swimming through the region every day. Yet they need to pay hundreds of dollars to some water institution to provide clean water. While there is abundance of clean water over there. Now what's the thing? To have a hold on the population, you give in to their narcissistic attitude. They have this tendency for control, so you provide in that tendency by telling them you need to pay for fresh water, even though fresh water is in abundance. Now, why am I mentioning this? Remember this and think of the parable I gave at the beginning of this video. The scammer came with a golden promise. And the promise was exactly what people were looking for. And because he offered them some crumbs, some delicious cheesecake, people thought this must be true. This milk must be of high quality, so those golden cows must exist. Some people thought, oh, probably the cows aren't really of gold skin, but nevertheless, those are high quality cows. We need them over here. It was all a hoax. That milk, it wasn't even real, natural, it wasn't even organic milk. It was milk that was extracted from plants. So the whole cheesecake thing itself, the cheesecake cakes that were spread around were real, but it was even made from cow's milk. So even the compensation you offered as a crumb was also a hoax. Remember this. I'm telling you, remember this. Because once you remember this, I'm not talking about the parable. I'm talking about this wise lesson over here. When people are so desperate to be left alone, they're so fed up, it's then that Satan has the best opportunity to trap them. And Satan only has to throw some crumbs at them, and they will be like sheep led to the slaughter. You don't even have to lead them to the house of the slaughter. You don't even have to lead them to the butcher. They will march to the butcher, thinking that the butcher will have something for them. That's how common people are. Not all of them, just like in that parable I give unto you. There are some that will see through the deception. But those that see through the deception, when they open their mouths, other common folks will haunt them. They may even lose their lives. What am I saying here? Some folks don't want to face that they've been scammed. They're too proud to admit it. One way you can easily recognize this is if someone was wrongly convicted. Let's say a homicide occurred somewhere in Texas, and a suspect is appointed. And it appears that he's the killer, because he knew the victim, there was a quarrel between him and the victim, and he was at the pub the night the victim died. But here's the thing, he left 3 hours before the victim left the pub, and he was out of town for 2 hours already when the homicide occurred. So it's impossible that he could have committed a crime. But these facts that he was 2 hours out of town already were not told in the media. Only that he was present the night that he was present at the club, at the pub the night that the victim died. Soon, many quote-unquote relatives and friends began to speak out against this suspect. Even on television, saying that they were duped by him and all of that. They even began to make up stories to make the suspect look bad. The judge, also the jury, knew already the guy couldn't have committed it. But the judge and the jury delayed the trial. And here's why the judge delayed the trial. The judge was shocked at how people treated the suspect, even though there was no exclusive evidence presented that he killed the guy. But people were already convinced he did it. So the trial came. He was released from all charges. But the people still wanted him behind bars. Why? The quote-unquote best friend of this suspect, former suspect, began to spread rumors about the guy. And the people, all being emotional, gave into it. They were scammed by someone. They were scammed by a narcissist that wanted attention. And the fact that they were willing to turn on a man's life without proper evidence, that shows that they had wrong thinking patterns. So their attitude, their public, quote-unquote honest attitude, revealed this disturbing fact about them. Now, this was out in the open, but they didn't want to face it. So, to protect themselves from being exposed and from being questioned by others, to protect themselves from being challenged, they now wanted this suspect, former suspect, to be behind bars anyway. They came up with conspiracy theories that he may have bribed the judge, or they came up with all kinds of stuff to justify their opinion and their attitude against the former suspect. At one point, the former suspect even moved to another city because his life was endangered. People wanted to make him pay for a crime he didn't commit. Why? Because they didn't want to face themselves, so they wanted to transfer their frustrations onto him. They couldn't handle, they were scammed. You have folks like this. Avoid them. Be at peace.